colocaron a Omar tampoco en la cárcel, porque mandaron una carta de aquí que no lo toquen.
Can you hear me, Aaron?
De Omar es la importancia para los Estados Unidos.
Let me hear you.
I can hear you now. I just had to unmute myself.
Okay, there we go.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing, Jeff? Long time no see.
Doing good. How's everything going? I love your
Yeah.
army fatigue.
Yeah, I didn't know if I was coming into battle or not. You know?
Oh, come on. There is no reason to battle, people.
No, not people, just you know, just the terrain, man. You're going into the wilderness and the jungle. You don't know what's out there.
Hey, none of us are running for mayor, so I won't be too worried about that. Those are the folks that have battles on their hands. That's where it gets heated.
Oh, okay.
Looks like Bill's calling in. Hold on. Billy? All right, could you sign into the meeting? Oh, okay, I see that you're here. Julie Mejia is there, Andrew McLeod. Yep, you're there. I don't see you on video.
I have to actually run, but I just wanted to say, no, I know you did, but I just want, before I run, I just want to say thank you. It's not lost on me.
Okay, yep, I'm on. Carol Strife is on. We have someone else who dialed in. They don't have a name. Aaron Jones. Yep. Yep, need you in. How's everything going on the bump team?
Oh, the bump team's going great, Jeff.
Good.
You know, we're in the fourth term. We're just moving right along. Following the money.
Yeah, that's next year, isn't it?
What's that?
The election. She's up for re-election next year. Can you open the screen so we can see everyone else?
Is she?
Yes,
I believe so.
everybody else
Good.
doesn't have their screen on.
Is Mara Healy gonna? Do we have a candidate for the governor?
I would imagine that Maura's running, and the question is, does Joe Kennedy get in?
Oh yeah. Just Joe get in, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or an Ayana or something like that. Yeah, it'll be exciting.
Yeah.
This is just Aaron.
All right.
Muted now.
Okay, it looks like
I'm on mute. They said the host was like,
What you have to hit it all.
okay.
I just want them to know that I'm here.
Hello, this is Florence Potter speaking.
Hi, Florence.
Hello.
Are you 8599?
No, 617-792.
Okay.
8599.
All right. Oh, 85. Yep. See you in there. Okay, that's great.
Carol Ray's on.
Oh, Carol Ray. Hi, Carol Ray.
Hey, Andrew.
Hi.
Hey, Bill. How's everybody doing? All right, let's see. Hi, Julia. Counselor Mejia.
Is that Councilor Mejia? Oh my God.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia, how are you?
Yeah, how are you?
Good. Long time no see.
Yeah, via Zoom.
Oh, I see you. You probably don't see me though.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm out here.
It's all good.
I haven't let COVID slow me down.
Yeah. I'm on to my second shot Monday. I get my second shot Monday.
That's good.
How are you feeling?
I took my father today for his second, and I take my mother on Monday for her second.
That is great.
So we're in total compliance of what's going on.
Yeah, that's great. They have like 1.2 million vaccinations statewide, and 600,000 people have gotten second vaccination. So looks like progress is going pretty well on that.
Great.
So let's go ahead and begin the meeting. It looks like we have a quorum here. And call to order. Does anyone have a flag? Our flag guy isn't here today. And we normally do the Pledge of Allegiance. So does anybody want to lead that? How about Counselor Mejia?
Well, you want to see if I know it?
Yeah, well, we're gonna do it with you.
It's because I'm
I
an
know you know it.
I'm with you, Councilwoman.
Find that you always trying to call me out. Pledge allegiance to the
Allegiance
flag
to
of
the
the United
flag,
States of
United
America,
States of
for
America.
which it stands, one nation, under the
Under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and
Liberty
justice
and
for
justice
all.
for all.
For all.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank
Was
you,
that part
Council.
like where to see whether or not I'm a U.S. citizen too? You want to
Oh,
know?
no, we know that because you know it
Mira,
better than we do.
I
I have the wrong one.
Listen, I'm gonna tell
I'm
you
a
this. I
supporter of
had to
state
become,
tax.
I had to become a U.S. citizen, and I had to take the test twice because I failed it. So I had to fight for it.
They have
There
some
you
questions
go.
up there.
You do it better than I did, so that's
Right.
good.
Yeah.
I love
What else you got for
Working.
me, Jeff? What else you got for me?
All right,
Well,
so
nothing. We
we're
love
gonna go through and roll call the members that have signed in.
Oh,
Angelina
just fine,
Camacho,
fine, fine. I'm fine.
Jeff Ross, Bill Singleton, Carol Strife. We have Florence Potter, Aaron Jones, Andrew McLeod, Mason Hillman, and Carol Strife. Welcome, everyone.
Carol Strike 2 is Carol Ray, actually.
Okay. Oh, hey, Carol Ray. Good. Okay, great. Welcome aboard. So now we have the next item on the agenda is the reading of the minutes. And as everyone on the committee knows, we are currently without a secretary. And so what we're relying on going forward are the recorded meetings. So if anybody needs access to those, just shoot us an email after the meeting and we'll forward the video from the previous meetings. It's one of the benefits of being able to do this by video conference is that we now have them all recorded. So it will save a lot of time. And next on the agenda is the treasurer's report.
Right, Kim?
Do we have Carol Strife?
I'm trying to unmute.
Okay, let's see. Can I unmute you?
Oh, this is Bill Singleton. Hey, Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I can't hold on. Let me see you. Oh, hey there, man. I'm doing good.
Good to see you.
You as well.
So
I'm getting
can we
Zoom.
hear? You're unmuted, Dr. Strife. Could you go ahead and give us the treasurer's report?
Yes, I will. Mr. Chair, we have a balance right now of $645.33. That includes $40 in dues payment and $84.96, which was a contribution to pay for the Robert's Rules of Order.
Terrific. And if there are dues or when do dues become?
Well, the dues are due anytime.
Okay. So is there a way that we could get later on at some future point a written list of folks who've paid dues so that we can work together, follow up, and try to get more resources into the committee's accounts?
What is it you want? You want a list of who's paid? I don't publicize that.
Yeah, if at some point so that we can just follow up with people and see if they need waivers.
Well,
and see if
I did follow up once, but I will follow up again.
Yeah,
I haven't pushed it because we haven't been spending any money.
great. So do we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So moved.
I have
Second?
a question.
Okay, a point of discussion on the treasurer's report?
I have a
That
question.
goes after the second. That goes as a second. So I'll second.
Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Any,
Yes.
I can stay on.
Okay, sorry, that was open for discussion. Yep, who has the question?
Florence has a question. When is is it $40? Is that for the year?
40.
For 20, that was someone who was paying ahead 2 years.
I can't hear you.
That was someone who was paying ahead for 2 years in the future.
It's $40 for 2 years.
$20 per year.
$20 per year.
$20 per year.
Perfect.
Okay, and who do I send it to?
You get the address.
Me, Carol Strife.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any more
Where they
comments?
have the pleasure of hearing from?
Actually, we need to
Florence.
Oh, Florence. That was Florence.
Okay, how are you doing, fella? I mean,
No, I'm not a fellow, sir.
I mean,
Lawrence
no,
Potter.
sorry, I meant to say ma'am, sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a second. All in favor of adopting the treasurer's report?
Aye.
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 Any
Good deal.
abstentions? Any objections? So
Oh,
ordered. Thank you very much. We had an item on the agenda of other business, which I've been informed by Madam Treasurer that she would like to bring up an issue regarding a pending piece of legislation. So would you like to talk about that, Dr. Strauss?
Yes, Mr. Chair. First of all, I think I have an echo.
Yes.
Carol Ray, are you unmuted? Are you muted? Carol?
Someone
Okay,
needs to
all right,
mute.
I'll go ahead. I hope you can hear me.
Yep, I can hear you.
All right, I am going to move, as I emailed everyone in 2 separate emails. I am going to move that Ward 9.
Carol, can you mute what, there's a
I just
feedback,
did.
there's 2 things. Okay, thank you.
All right, can you hear me now? Okay,
It's still an echo.
I'm going to move
Still
that.
an echo, there's still an echo. Is there 2 computers in one room?
That's because, yeah, there are 2 of us on one computer. All right, I am muting. Hang on.
Okay. I like this Zoom, but I'm
All right, can you hear me now?
excellent.
Okay, good.
Yes.
All right, I am moving that we write letters to Representative Santiago and Senator Chang Diaz, urging them to sign on to the legislation on mass incarceration that I wrote everyone about, and ask that they come to a meeting to be scheduled in the future to explain their positions on this legislation.
Sure. So do we have a second, like a motion on the floor to adopt this proposal?
Well, just to be clear, is the motion to ask them to come to a meeting, or do we write?
And no, it was to ask them to come to a meeting, but also to send them a letter urging them to support, to sign on as co-signers.
Yeah. And is there a timeline that's
Yes, it has.
sensitive?
That's as I understand it, the legislation is in committee now, so we really cannot afford to wait too terribly long.
And do you, actually Mason Hellman works up at the state legislature. Mason, would you like to chime in on that?
Sure. This is different from sessions past, but House members now can sign on to legislation until it leaves its initial committee. So we have a little more time than we would have in the past. And then I believe senators are able to co-sponsor at any time. So we do have a little bit of leeway, but it will need to happen before the bill gets out of whatever committee it gets assigned to, but it hasn't been assigned to a committee yet. So there's some time crunch, but not an urgent one.
So
It was my understanding.
what is your estimation, Mason? Is it, you think 30 days, if we have another meeting within 30 days, that it would be within the time period that we'd be able to address?
Oh yeah, that'll be more than enough. The
Okay.
bills haven't even been assigned to committees yet, so it's going to take a minute.
Oh, it's my understanding that it had been assigned to judiciary, but Mason obviously may be more up to date. I do believe that the letters should go out well before the deadline, so that I would hope the letters would go out within the next 2 or 3 weeks, at the same time that we're inviting them to come to the ward meeting.
Yep. And that would give us 1 month to schedule the next meeting.
That's correct.
Yep. So like, let's target like within three weeks or so. If things start moving quickly, if you could be in touch with us, Mason, let us know. That would be great, just to help support the efforts of some of the members that care about this issue, or that are helping us spearhead this issue. We all care about it, of course.
Right. I think, yeah, the issue is not the legislation at all, but how much time do we have to make sure that
Right.
we're all properly informed to get the most feedback from everyone.
Exactly.
And I know we're We just need to make sure that there's transparency in this. So, yeah, I agree. And then also let's remember that because this has already been brought up as business, the executive committee now has the power to carry it forward.
Right.
That's according to the bylaws, just the way
Right.
we did it with the trees, because it was brought up in business.
Yep.
Because it's already brought up, the executive committee can carry it forward as
Yep.
part of essential business based on the deadlines. If the deadline comes before the next meeting, we still have a way to respond.
Right. So I suggest that we work together on the executive committee to put the notice, the letter together. I think that it's respectful to invite our senator and state representative to the meeting before we start a letter writing campaign, and let them chime in on their positions and work with them to build support around it if they're on our team. And
No, Mr. Chair, that's not quite what I said, I believe. I want the letter to state that we endorse the legislation and that we urge them to support it also,
okay.
in addition to inviting them.
Are you moving that we endorse the legislation? I
Yeah,
haven't seen it.
That's, I gave you. I sent you the link to it. Mason actually just gave it to you again.
I did read your email, but I didn't see a link in the email that I got. It might have been screened out.
I sent
But
you.
in any case, if everyone else has gotten it and has read through it and feels comfortable taking a vote on it, there's no problem moving forward with that and hearing from the rest of the committee. What is the sentence there?
She moved, I second to move this along.
All right. Discussion.
Well, yeah, I wanted to know one thing. We are voting to endorse the letter that's already been written with the invitation, because we're inviting them and we are urging them to support, correct?
Yeah.
The letter has not yet been written, Bill, but that's essentially what we are asking them to do. We will write the letter urging them to support and to come to a meeting.
I agree with that, yes.
And we're also at the same time in this motion endorsing this piece of legislation and supporting it.
So that means everyone has read it?
I believe so. It's a progressive piece upon an issue that's very important. I'm curious to hear what other people think of that, though. But
I mean, I read it. I have no question about the importance of the legislation. I just think it's very important that we all commit to have read it, so that we're clear and making sure that we're agreeing to the same thing.
Okay.
So that way, if it's questioned, it's on record. We've all read it. We're all standing in agreement with Ms. Carroll and, and the fact that a letter needs to be written. That's all I'm saying. I'm fine with it.
Just so I just got in my State House email and pulled out the summary that Rep. Miranda and Rep. Livingstone sent out. So it's in the chat, and I'm happy to forward that if anyone wants it in an email or.
Yeah, that was helpful. I saw that, Jay Livingstone. Yeah, he worked on something like that a couple of years ago, and it looks like it's a little bit further in treatment and beds and things. So is everyone comfortable moving forward on an endorsement vote?
Jeff, can I just make a quick note because I just opened it up?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, maybe, I'm sorry to insert myself in this discussion, but I looked at what Nate Mason linked into the chat. And I don't know if Mason has information on why more of the Boston delegation, including the local state rep, hadn't signed on to that. Is there any information or additional guidance as to why?
So I'll kind of give you the pitch that my boss always gives people, which is that there's thousands of bills.
Okay.
And they just had a 2-week deadline in July or January to file legislation. And then a week after, they had a what used to be the co-sponsor deadline, which has now been extended.
Oh, okay.
So this year, I think people were taking it a little more slowly and going through it a little more deliberately. So that would be, I don't have specific information, but that would be my guess, is that we've just been a little overwhelmed with the beginning of the session, given how much legislation is filed.
Yeah. My only concern is where there are just a few Boston members. I don't know whether I haven't read the legislation. I just don't know whether or not there is some sort of legitimate explanation to that. That's all.
Well, that's why we're asking them to come and talk with us. Santiago supported it the last time around, essentially the same legislation, except for the new addition of the restorative justice piece.
And I think that this inquiry is safe only because we're asking them to sign on and the meeting. We're if they then come back to us and give us that information, as Anissa has said, then we also have a chance to then decide as a ward, based on the new information, whether or not we continue to support the legislation.
Yes.
And then we can push from there. It's
That's
all
it.
in the language. The language is we are asking you to sign on to the legislation and meet with us. And so then if they bring up something that's controversial, that's in the legislation that we're not aware of, that gives us a chance to change our
That
position.
makes sense to me.
Oh, I think I'm hearing that we're not actually endorsing the legislation at this time.
That's what I'm hearing.
That's what it sounds like. I mean, it could change in committee. Is that true, Mason?
No.
Yeah, this is just the first version. This hasn't been through the lawyers. It hasn't been through House Counsel. This is just what Reps Miranda and Livingstone wrote, and it'll go through the committee process and likely come out changed. But I don't think there's any. I do think this is a good approach in asking them to sign on, and then they can come back with their concerns or.
Right.
Is the House member that you're working for supporting the legislation? Do you have a position on it?
She is not signed on as a co-sponsor, but I, from personal experience, can tell you it's just the volume. We were trying to sort through so many, and this is not one that I remember taking a close look at yet. So.
And Carol, could you? I don't mean to interrupt, but Carol Strife, that is, could you kind of in gist explain what the advocacy consists of? I know some of it, but just in gist, just to for the record here.
What you mean? What the legislation actually is?
Right, right.
Very quickly.
Usually I'm doing that.
It's usually me doing that. Very quickly, there are two pieces to it. As I said in my email last night to everybody, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that I've been trying to get you all to read the legislation and to read my notes and the Cambridge
It's a very fine letter.
Anyway, okay.
And I read most of it.
2 points. Number one, as you know, we now have a status called life without parole. That means that somebody convicted will never, ever go to the parole board. This legislation would change that so that everyone would have a chance to be eligible to go before the parole board after 25 years of incarceration. The second piece introduces a restorative justice program across the Department of Correction facilities. I'm not going to go into a long explanation of restorative justice. You can look it up. It's a very it's an accepted method of rehabilitation in many, many places now. I should point out at the very last that 60% of the people currently in Massachusetts with criminal convictions are people of color. 60%.
Yeah.
The people of color make up only 20% of the state. So this bill will really be significant in terms of our district population.
Right. I think that there's no question that we should, support this cause. I think that we should do it within the alignment of the process, right?
Yes.
We need to get them to sign on, inform us of what's happening. But as Mason said, and as I'm very well aware, that legislation also gets changed as it goes through the process. And so we need to make sure that we have a conditional acceptance at first, knowing that the legislation is going to be changed before we give our full acceptance, because we want to make sure that we stay close to the issue. And as those changes happen, it's still in alignment with what Carol's bringing to us for us to advocate for the exact language that we want to see in that legislation. That's very important. If we give our full endorsement of the legislation as it stands now for perpetuity, it doesn't give us that chance to make those changes or stay close to those changes as it goes through the process.
Exactly. And then if
I
something is
think-
added to the bill later that we don't support or that's contrary to the values of the folks in our neighborhood, we may not want to support it at all. So I support the idea of moving forward with a letter and the invitation at this point. And if someone would make a motion on that.
I just made it,
Okay.
I
Do we hear-
second the motion.
and Aaron seconded, or
Aaron
well,
seconded it.
somebody.
Aaron
Aaron
seconded. Thank you.
seconded.
I
Aaron did
kind
it.
of, wait, hold up, time out.
Yeah.
I kind of seconded on the, predicated on the fact that, I really wasn't aware of all the information. You know what I mean? I think the motion has to be reworded.
Okay.
Because the first motion had in it that we were actually voting for the legislation, and I'm not sure we're still doing that.
What?
Okay.
I'm not sure. What I'm moving in my motion was that we send a letter
the letter.
urging them to co-sponsor.
Right. That's the first part.
To sign on.
So
the
sign on as co-sponsors of that legislation.
Right.
Santiago did it in the past. He has not yet done it this time. We're urging him to do so, as well as Senator Chang Diaz. I'm not sure, Aaron, what your
Well,
Make the motion
No,
again.
no, I just want to be on the same page. I want us all to be on the same page here and understand what we're actually voting on. And
Well-
it's my understanding that we're not actually voting to support the legislation, are we? Because I'm in favor of it myself, but I'm not sure if that's others' understanding.
Yeah, no, we're supporting the legislation. Ms. Carroll, tell me if I'm wrong. We're supporting the legislation, but we're not endorsing the final because the final hasn't come out yet. So we are asking our legislators to
We don't
support
even
the
know if it's
existing
gonna be a
legislation
different
by
piece.
signing on and then coming back and giving us information on their position or anything, anything about why they're not signing on or signing on. And we know that there are going to be changes. So endorsing the final is a second step. It's not this step.
I agree with that. My suggestion is that we send a letter to the representatives inviting them to come to the committee to talk about the legislation and let them address it and have a dialogue with them. and
No,
then-
We need to let them know
after
that we
that.
supported it.
No, I'm sorry. My motion was to send a letter urging them to co-sponsor and inviting them to come and explain
I
their
believe that's
position.
a compromise there, no?
All right, so we
That's
leave
what I
out,
agreed to, Mr. Chair. That's what I'm agreeing to.
okay, so we leave out then the endorsement of the legislation itself by the
we're
board.
in-
Say
committee.
the ward.
We're not using the word endorsing. We're urging them to co-sponsor.
Right.
Obviously, Angelina's correct. It may change in committee. It may change when it gets out of committee. We need to be
Right.
watchful to make sure, because this is a very important piece of legislation for our people in our ward. We need to be
Absolutely.
watching it.
I think-
Sure.
I think
So
you-
our
Yeah, I think you're
position,
right.
our position at this time is that we support the legislation as it is, knowing that there may be changes down the road.
Essentially, that is the essence, I suppose, of what I am saying. Basically, the words I'm using are co-sponsor. We're urging them to co-sponsor. That certainly implies that we are endorsing the legislation as it stands now.
Sure.
Basically get the names on first, inform us of their position, and we stay close to it. And if for some reason something moves faster, Mason will let us know and we can pick it up in executive committee and make sure everybody gets the information. And then we can go ahead and move
Right.
with it.
Well, I
Great.
will also find out too, because I'm in touch with the Livingstone people who are putting this together.
Terrific, that's great.
Great.
So do we
Okay, well,
have,
then,
Ready for the vote.
we're
Yeah.
ready for the vote. Let's move along.
Question.
do we have questions? Do we
Oh,
have?
we had to, did we agree that the motion,
Excellent.
because Aaron pulled back his motion?
Yeah, so let's let's put that out as a motion, Carol's statement,
I
and
still second it. I still
all right,
second
you
it.
second it?
Okay,
Okay, great.
perfect.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? So ordered. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is announcements. And the announcement that I have is that normally this time of year, we are planning caucuses and having, candidates and our elected leaders come before our committee, but it's with COVID, the convention has been put off until the fall. And so we're not even thinking about caucuses now until June. So we'll be in touch as there are developments on that if it continues to go forward. But in the meantime, we have two legislators at the city level here who represent us on the city council to let us know about all of the exciting changes that have been going on out there and to talk to us about what is happening legislatively with questions about a special election for a mayoral race, how many city council seats are going to be open, and we're going to then afterwards have to get together as a committee and figure out whether we want to partner with other ward committees for a candidate forum on the mayoral race, the city council at large races, or district races, or if we want to individually interview folks on our own going forward, as Ward 15 has been doing. So welcome, Councillor Anissa Essaibi George. Thank you so much for coming. And then after we will have Councillor Mejia close us out. So the floor is yours.
Thank you really very much, all of you, for being here. I'm sorry that we aren't in person. The last time I saw all of you was, I don't know, a year ago, I suppose, in person over at the health center in the community room. Anissa Essaibi George, as Jeff mentioned, city councilor at large and now candidate for mayor. Really happy to give you an update on my work on the council over this last year, and I'm certainly happy to entertain questions about the mayor's race, although I think we may save some of that for another time. So a little bit of what's going on. You may know or recall that I am the chair of the Education Committee for the City Council. I'm also vice chair of Ways and Means, vice chair of Public Health. We've spent a great deal of this last year focused on COVID and the pandemic and the repercussions from that and the impacts of that on our families, on our kids, on our communities, on our neighborhoods, certainly on our schools, and on our healthcare system and the implications that has had on too many of our residents for sure, and especially our residents in our poorer communities and our residents who are Black and Brown in particular and very specifically. We are certainly seeing a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, I hope, as we roll out the vaccine, but certainly want to remind everyone to remind your friends and neighbors and family members to continue to get tested, to continue to maintain the physical distancing that we unfortunately need to do at this time while you're hoping, and I hope many of you have had access to the vaccine already or are about to. My sister, who is a school guidance counselor, is going next week. I'm really excited for her. My mother has already had her first shot, and I look forward to President Biden's assertions this week that we're going to move quicker than we thought on the vaccine rollout. And we certainly here in the city of Boston have been very creative about how we are rolling out the vaccine, especially following some of the earlier challenges that we also saw with the testing rollout, where large one-stop shops were not beneficial for many of our communities, especially where transportation is, especially when we think about making sure that those that we know that we have relationships with are delivering that vaccine. I've been a big proponent of making sure our community health centers have access to that vaccine, and then working with Boston EMS in particular to do some mobile delivery of the vaccine. That continues to, and then also at our schools, we've started some testing and hope that we can also see some of the vaccine rollout, perhaps in partnership with our school communities. Because I'm a former teacher, because I'm a BPS parent, spent a lot of this last year working on the reopening of our schools, making sure that our schools have access to the resources they need to reopen safely, and to really acknowledge the great challenges that many of our families and our kids have because they aren't in school. Very few of our kids are actually in school. We know our high needs kids have been in school on and off since September. And then last week we started reintroducing we call them the babies, the little ones, back into the classroom for hybrid learning. And then over the next couple of weeks, we'll introduce middle school kids and then our high school students, which I'm really excited about because my 4 kids are in high school and they terribly miss the classroom. And we know that the classroom experience is different, that our kids are physically separated from one another, that they are wearing masks, and that there is unfortunately still simultaneous teaching happening. So teachers are teaching via the computer. Kids are in the classroom learning via the computer still, although those that will be in school will be in each other's company. So I look forward to that. School sports have returned. Today was actually a big BLS English high school football scrimmage. 2 of my boys are playing at BLS, so that was kind of fun to see that happening. One of my guys is playing for BLA. So we'll get to that. I'll give you a report on that first game as it happens. They just wrapped up the hockey season for their respective schools, and excited certainly for spring and the baseball season ahead. We're also thinking about the season ahead, preparing for our budget cycle. Boston Public Schools is wrapping up their school hearings, or the school committee hearings on the proposed budget, and that should be wrapping up in the next coming weeks. And then the city council will be receiving the mayor's budget. The mayor's budget will likely be presented to the city council by our acting mayor, Janie, when that happens. And we expect that to happen in the next couple of weeks. Rumors are it may happen this coming week. We'll see, because every week is a new week and we're thinking it's happening, but I think this week might be the week it's happening. So we are preparing for the city's budget. We know that it'll be a difficult budget year, but we still know what our priorities are. The council is very much interested in continued investments when it comes to our schools, continued investments when it comes to public health and public safety, and thinking about or rethinking how we're investing some of those public safety dollars. And this last year, this last year's spending, or the current fiscal year's spending, is something that we'll be looking very closely at. As we know, some things have cost more money than anticipated because of COVID, because of some of the things that we've been trying to do as a city. But for sure, the council, through the Ways and Means process, will keep a very close eye on that process and work in partnership with the state delegation around articulating our needs. And then also leaning on our partners at the federal level. We obviously have a very strong congressional delegation. We've got a really good relationship with the Biden administration, and grateful for that administration now in place, and think that that will certainly support Boston in the things that we need to do next. I am personally going to take a particular look at some of our capital investments upcoming as we enter an uncertain future, especially around our fiscal stability, financial stability for the city. We have an opportunity to think a little bit longer term about our investments, and capital investments is one way to do that. We have a really strong financial footing right now, especially when we think about our AAA bond rating, and that creates an opportunity for us to borrow and invest and think a little bit longer term about some of those investments. So that'll be a particular focus of mine. But other things I'll be advocating for is making sure that we still have full-time nurses in all of our school buildings. It's a commitment from the administration and the school department. Want to make sure that's still the case, especially as kids return to school. Work to continue to increase the number of mental health specialists that are in our schools. The next crisis we face as a city, I think as a society, but certainly here in Boston, will be a mental health crisis. And then the work that we've been focused on as of late, in particular to our schools, is my interest in making sure that all of our schools have libraries and librarians for our kids. When we think about student achievement and student success, it's very much tied to literacy and the early success our kids have in developing their literacy skills. So we'll be, that's a little bit of a preview of some of the things we'll be working on. It's a short list that I'm sharing with you today. Maybe after Councilor Mejia offers some update, we can do some questions around some of the other work. But thank you, Jeff. Thank you everyone for inviting me, and I'm here. Go right ahead.
Thank you for coming out, and thank you for supporting the word. It's always great to have guest speakers. It keeps people focused on the future, which is really helpful. But one of the things that I've noticed here, especially you know, my local dry cleaner, some of my favorite restaurants, which I wouldn't be going to anyways, are struggling. Some have closed. And you know, the one that I go to is King's over on Washington Street, and she said because people aren't engaged in the business community, that that business has dropped significantly, and she's struggling. She's not an English language speaker. And are there places that folks like that can go to get like lending or, you know, gap funding or help?
So through the city, we do have some opportunities for some small grants, and they are small grants to local businesses. I think during this pandemic, we needed to focus on housing stability and supporting our residents who were housing unstable and were, because of employment shifts, because of family needs, too many of our residents were unable to maintain their housing. So we offered a lot of support through housing stability. I think it was a real missed opportunity to not do something parallel to housing stability around commercial stability. And, we did rent relief. We should have done commercial rent relief at the same time. I think about this next leg of this crisis of the pandemic, of thinking about strengthening our local economy. It's about strengthening and stabilizing, but also looking to create opportunities for growth. Entrepreneurs, especially many entrepreneurs are sort of serial entrepreneurs. When they see a crisis, they see a weakness, they look for an opportunity. So we need to strengthen, stabilize, help, and then help our entrepreneurs grow. We see an increase in the vacancy rate across the city for commercial space because too many of our businesses have not been able to sustain themselves during this difficult time. But that now presents us with an opportunity for growth. Can we re-engage that former business owner in a new opportunity? Can we re-engage a business owner who's been able to weather this really difficult storm and difficult time to grow? But first and foremost, it's supporting the businesses that still have been able to hold on, and many of them just barely. I was at a restaurant bakery the other day in Chinatown, in the owner with I don't speak his language, and he was struggling with his Chinese, and his English, and we were having a Chinese interpreter, but he just sort of got frustrated with the translation and just said, I'm at this with the water. I'm at this with the water, meaning he's barely keeping his head up above the water. And I think it's too many of our businesses across the district are dealing with that. Council Mejia is the chair of the Small Business Committee for an Economic Development Committee for the City Council. So she may want to add some more of her work and a tremendous amount of outreach she's done, especially around helping our small businesses access some of this information, because still we may have the information available, but our small businesses don't have access to the technology. We may have the information available, but it's not in the native language of the business owner. And as a business owner myself, it's hard work. And oftentimes you are struggling to survive, never mind catch up or rebuild or double down and strengthen. And, my business, we got caught a little bit off guard because we weren't fully prepared to offer services online. We weren't fully prepared to sell the vast array of product in my shop online. And it took some planning to do the curbside pickup. And it, like a lot of businesses, we weren't prepared for this crisis. I have the opportunity, I own my property where my business is, which gave me a little bit of room, but many of our business owners don't, and there was no rental relief for those commercial properties. And, bills have to be paid, mortgages have to be paid, and it put a lot of people in difficult spots. And that's why we unfortunately see the spike in the vacancy rate.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask, first of all, I wanted to thank you, Councilwoman Mejia, for coming to us. We're kind of technologically challenged, some of our members, but we really, Jeff, I want to thank Jeff and Camacho for inviting you. They're very good. Now, I'm a business person too. I'm a landlord here, and I have 4 buildings in the South End, and I rent to primarily students. But I'm also a part of UNLR, which we're trying to create some housing for people that don't have the resources that normally, people in this area might have. And I'm more concerned with the fact that the people here may not be able to hold on if they can't pay the rent, and then the guy that they're paying the rent to, he can't pay the mortgage. So I'm wondering what kind of, also they have like the mass MGCC. Now I was made aware of this application, but when I filled it out, they sent something back and they said, well, you did something wrong, but you have to go to list to get to figure out what it is. Now, if I'm going through that, I am pretty sure, I know about 43 landlords. I know people who are tenants and landlords, and they're finding it difficult to fill out the requirements that the city and the state have because the process is complicated.
Right.
What
Right.
can we do to lessen that complication? And so I can send to, say, Mr. Lewis, who has a business down the street in the Privé parking lot, Dr. Brown, who has a dentistry practice. They are smart people, but they may not know all the complications of the forms that they have to fill out.
So our Office of Housing Stability at Boston, I'm just looking up the phone number now so I can share it with you in the link. The Office of Housing Stability, that process is actually pretty simple, but that's for tenants. A landlord certainly needs to be involved and engaged in that process, but that is, that's for tenants specifically. I'm putting the phone number in the chat to have your residents call into. There is another process for small business owners, but those grants are a lot less significant. We are looking forward to the most recent stimulus package that we're hoping to get those funds soon. Our businesses need cash. I mean, that's what they need right now is cash assistance. And, you know, businesses are burning through the PPP, which was very helpful. And many businesses, if they didn't do it the first round, are now doing it in these later rounds or going in for a second round. That will hopefully continue for a little bit longer on the PPP. But we know our
Suppose you
business
don't
just
have
needs
that many employees. Suppose you have like 1 or 2 employees and you've been paying your taxes. I mean, that PPP isn't going to necessarily apply.
So
I know
Congresswoman Presley is actually very specifically gearing some of her work towards businesses who have less than 20 employees. So that for the earlier applications to the new money that's coming out, because we saw big businesses applying, and it's not that big business doesn't need support, but big business often has other access to capital and other investors, where smaller businesses, locally owned businesses don't. So, I'm grateful.
Will
for
that
her
be
focus on
included
that.
with the Senate just passed? The Senate just passed their version.
Yeah.
And if it goes to the Congress, will some of that money see its way to Boston?
Yeah, I mean, it's a significant amount of money, and yes.
Yes.
Better.
So
Very
I'm
good.
actually very well versed on this because the Office of Housing Stability does have some support for homeowners as well as the renters. Not as significant as for the renters, but they do have for the homeowners. What's key for the homeowners to understand is how, because this is also my taxation side really quick, is how that money that the renters are getting will actually be included in the taxation system, but not to be afraid of it. What we've been finding is, and we've trained over 230 CHWs, community health workers, to support both renters who are coming in as patients and homeowners on this process, and as well as my 14 years of serving in the city's taxation program. Basically, it's not any different money than what's coming in for what you would normally consider rental income. So it's not really going to put them in a taxable situation that they should be scared of. What we are finding is that the homeowners are not participating in supporting the renters to get this money because they feel that it's going to be traceable in a way that's going to harm them. That's what's been coming to us so far from the 230 some odd people that we've trained over the past few months.
But I thought that was specific to some of the RAFT money. I know some of our landlords are refusing to participate in RAFT as opposed to
is
OHS
RAFT?
money, which is simple. RAFT is rental assistance.
Rental assistance for families in transition.
Thank
Yep.
you.
And then there's also the other money, the IRMA money, money. They're handled differently, but basically in no circumstances are the homeowners going to be at risk or be put in a negative situation. It's important that they know that so that they get the rental income that they need in order to be sustainable. And so I've worked with both the Office of Housing Stability and Greater Boston Legal Services to do a number of clinics in the neighborhood. Not necessarily part of my work, but part of the work that we need to do. So what's key is that landlords understand how both IRMA and RAFT work and encourage their renters to go through the process. And again, there are a number of community health workers and organizations who can be trained on the MAID system, the Massachusetts Defense for Eviction system, so that even if they go into that process, the first step is, fill out that CDC form to, and then let us know if you have actually applied for any of those funds, so there could be a conversation that can be supported. And so I've been working very heavily on that actively, because as you know, Bill, and a number of you here, that a lot of our renters are hurting in this area,
Oh,
and
yes.
we can't wait for there to be a program to make this
Oh.
happen for them.
Now, I've had to let some people give them 2 or 3 months so they can catch up, because I don't want them out there. I'd rather them be here, and then we can make that up later. And that's what
Right.
I've been doing a lot of times. If
Yeah.
someone's behind us, hey, just go easy here. Everyone's behind us.
So starting the process is key. One moment, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. So,
You're welcome. I
we
want
have
to
any
be
more
mindful of your time, and I know Councilman
Yes.
is here to also
you.
speak, so I'll hang out if there's any additional questions at the end.
Thank you. Yep, Councilor Mejia.
Hello.
How are you? Welcome. It's great to see you.
Can't see you.
It's
Good to be
back,
here.
so
Welcome to
Like
Ward
you.
9.
Thank you. Great to
There
be
you
I can't see her. Where?
I can see you. Hold on.
If you're not on gallery view, it might be harder to see Councilor Mejia. Hey, girl. Hey,
Oh, I
sis.
got people.
Aaron, can you
There
see
you
me?
are.
No,
That's all
no,
that really matters.
not
Y'all
see
can
you right now.
see me. Y'all can see me?
I can see
Don't
you.
worry, y'all can hear me. Can you
I
hear
can
me?
see you now.
Yep, I can hear you.
I can see you, late, friend.
Listen, well, first
Yeah.
of all, thank you for the invitation. It's good to be here. Thank you, my love. Y'all are cutting into my kids' time. They said 2:45,
Oh.
3 o'clock. This is her
Tell
time.
her we
Y'all should
said
mad at me.
hello. Tell her we said hello.
Oh, shoot.
And I gotta call y'all out because I need to know what order you all working under. I was here first and I'm going last, so
I know it. Speak,
engagement.
sister.
I'm gonna call you all out.
Speak, sister.
Oh,
There are
no.
two places you want to be. You either want to be the
Big
opener or
sister.
you want to be the
Oh, I just-
closer.
I
So
don't know what rules
You
of
wanna be the
engagement we're
opener.
working with. Cause I'm the call out queen and I have no problem calling it out. So I just need to know
Thank
what
you.
kind of space I'm walking into.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
yeah, we didn't put you in the middle. We gave you one of the prestigious positions. So welcome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Okay. So anyways, so I'm going to assume that many of you all know a little bit about me and who I am and what I do. I could tell you, right now I'm the chair of Small Business and Workforce Development and Consumer Affairs. And as well as the chair of Civil Rights. And for those who have been following me, you know that I'm very hands-on with the work that we do, especially when it came to COVID. We actually, as the chair of Small Business, we created an entire workforce development initiative to support hairdressers and barbershops because they're a high-touch industry. And also a lot of these small businesses were operating with cash only oftentimes. Y'all gonna have to go on mute, Carol. You messing up my flow up in here, okay?
It was all good stuff about you.
Okay. This is what my
That's what
thinking
you
here.
say.
No, I love it anyways. I know. But seriously, what we found out is through our office is that a lot of these businesses, many of which were minority owned and many were also immigrant, like didn't know how to speak the language. And to Bill's point, in terms of like some of the smaller businesses, didn't have access to a lot of the PPE and the PPP funding because of the way they were operating their businesses. And so what we designed through our office was a COVID ready business where we were able to work in partnership with various nonprofit organizations. And we created a 12-hour training intense program to support these businesses so that they can learn how to, in the time of COVID, if they had to reopen, what would that reopening look like in the salon and barbershop industry? A lot of those folks who went through the training learned about utilizing the internet to book your appointments. They learned about like cashless systems because many of them didn't even know that they had, that if you weren't on the books, that you were not going to be able to apply for. That's why you were not eligible for a lot of the mini grants that were offered. So we did the training. Then we also created some technical assistance. We worked with the city and other partners to develop a hub for these groups to be able to have access to resources. And we also provided, through our partnerships with other organizations, we were able to provide 3 months of PPE to these businesses so that they can keep their doors open and keep their clientele clean and safe. And so as a result of that work with this particular cohort, we learned that one of the issues that bubbled up to the top was the issue around trauma, because a lot of the financial loss, these businesses were feeling the financial impact, and we're seeing that through a mental health lens, right? You know what it's like when you got like $5 left in your pocket.
Like, where's my money?
So what we decided to do is we partnered up with several clinicians of color and other nonprofit organizations, and we are about to launch an initiative to train barbershops, hair salon owners, and small businesses on trauma-informed practices so that they can first learn for themselves. And then while you're blowing out somebody's hair or trimming up their beard, you are able to then talk to your clients about the trauma that they're experiencing and then connecting them to the support services that they need. Because as Counselor Asabi George mentioned, mental health is going to be one of the biggest issues that we're going to be contending with. So we're creating this initiative to help these businesses not just deal with their own trauma, but to help support the larger community. And as part of that rollout, we're also going to be doing something specifically for educators, because we've asked our educators to come back into the Zooms, if you will, but we haven't really had a time to really process what that has been like for our educators and for our students. So this mental health and wellness initiative will also be rolling out to do something targeted with educators. And then we have a track for young people. The office, our office has been deeply committed to youth engagement and mental health and wellness. I talk a lot about my own experiences as a young person who dealt with depression, who dealt with suicide. And I know that a lot of our kids are dealing with that and struggling with it today. So we have poured a lot of our resources into creating space for young people who are feeling isolated and unable to be fully expressed. Many who are LGBTQ, who their place to go at school was a place for them to just be themselves. But now they are at home feeling disconnected from their peers, And so we are creating that space for mental health and wellness for young people through this initiative as well. Many people joke that in many ways, the way our office functions is through different tracks. So that's a lot of our programming. We do programming. So when a constituent calls us with an issue, like Elizabeth Warren, she got a plan for it, we got a program. So we developed the COVID business ready situation. Parents were concerned about remote learning. We created an opportunity for parents to be able to work in learning pods and be able to incubate across the city, and providing technical assistance to other organizations that wanted to open up pods so that families can go to work. We also created a bodega project to help support and address the food insecurity, because we knew that a lot of our families were food insecure. And oftentimes there were some folks who had to travel 20 minutes just to get to their closest food pantry. And so they were putting their lives at risk just to get something to eat. And oftentimes the places that they were being deployed to had potatoes and things that they didn't know how to cook with. So we created the Bodega Project in partnership with several other groups. And we were able to create an opportunity for people to shop right in their local neighborhoods for culturally competent foods, and while also supporting the bodegas and the corner stores to be able to continue to thrive. We also did that with restaurants all across the city, so that we can feed our elders. We knew that elders were getting Meals on Wheels Monday through Friday. We partnered up with Tufts and other organizations because our seniors during the weekends were not getting fed. So we created an initiative to be able to do this. As the chair of small business, all of these projects were designed to help stimulate the economy, keep these smaller businesses intact while also providing a service to our constituents. So that is in terms of some of our business work and what we have been able to do. I can now talk to you a little bit about some of our big key legislative things. I'll just give you some things by the numbers. By the numbers, we have filed 24 hearing orders. We had 16 resolutions passed. We filed 2 resolutions so far. One has passed in a compromised draft at this point, but it passed nonetheless. We've ordered a 17F, which is just basically when we're trying to get information from the city and it ain't coming to us. The 17F is so that we can get that information. We have attended every single budget hearing when we've learned a lot. For those folks who have been following us on social media, you know that we have a growth mindset. Like everything that we've learned, we brought our audience along. I don't pretend to know it all. I'm still learning. And if you think I know it all, then you just like, I'm just managing your expectations. I don't. But what I know, I share with our community because this is really about civic engagement. I ran on a platform to create space for those who have been disregarded and disrespected and devalued to have a voice at the table. And everything that my office has done since then, I have an 87-page PowerPoint presentation to prove it, has been around civic engagement, creating opportunities to develop real voice in the city of Boston. And a lot of that work has been through making sure that we just filed a hearing order around impact advisory groups. These are folks who get assigned to big development projects. We want to audit to see who gets to be at that table, right? We want to make sure that it's culturally diverse and that it's responsive to the people who live in these neighborhoods, right? One of the other things that we have been focusing on in terms of our legislation is language access. It's really about, for me, information justice, right? We take for granted the fact that everybody knows how to read and write, even in their own native language. For me, it's beyond translation and interpretation. We want to make sure that we're using audio and visual and other ways to be able to communicate with people, because that is what it really looks like when we're really intentional. And we also want to be culturally competent, right? When people, I don't know about how many of y'all knew what flattening the curve was. I had to Google it. I didn't know what that was, right? So it's really pushing the city to be really more mindful of how we're communicating with people, right? We have to recognize our own privilege. And so really being super mindful of how information is coming out and how intentional we're being about making sure that everybody actually understands it and that people are able to access information. The other piece that we've been really vocal on and been unapologetic about is youth development and creating spaces for young people. We created an entire Civic Engagement Institute this past summer where we hired 12 young people who got trained. They developed their own policy and they wrote up their own hearing orders. They also hosted a town youth hall. And even though people are always saying, and a lot of the things that we do focuses on people who traditionally don't vote, like young people aren't old enough to vote. Folks who are immigrants aren't, able to vote. And people in certain communities don't come out and vote, but we're really intentional about engaging everybody because whether you vote or not, you matter. Right. And I think that we want to change the way we do business, and that starts with the way we show up. And so we've been very intentional about our level of engagement. And, I'm running for a second term for re-election. And I know I have a lot to prove, but I'm going to manage everybody's expectations that I am an exponential learner. I've learned a lot in my first year. We ran on a campaign. We had a traumatic recount. We won by one vote. We didn't get comfortable in our seats and COVID kicked us right out the city hall. And we've had to learn how to do our job under a global pandemic and under racial and civil unrest. And I have to say that my office and my team has done an amazing job at meeting the moment and being unapologetic about who it is that we're here to uplift. And those are the people who have often been left out of the conversation. And I am extremely grateful for the opportunity to be here with you today and look forward to having any questions. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you for coming. If we meet folks out there as we're in the neighborhoods, where do we send them to connect them with those language services and the PPE support if they haven't already been connected?
Yeah, so the program that we ran was specifically for the barbershops. This program started in June.
Okay.
So they're part of a cohort that have already been trained. And so we have earmarked those specific services for the cohort of folks who've completed the training. That was one of the incentives, to complete the training and go through the technical assistance to get the PPE. But
can we send them to your office? We're
But
gonna
I will
send them all
tell
to-
you, Jeff, if you want to like mooch off of us, I'll tell you, like, we got
Yeah.
you. Because we've been working with, because also I'm very big on minority businesses and making sure that we're pouring in. We have a whole network. We can send you some resources of people that we've been using as vendors to support our smaller businesses. So I can send you the link and the information to that.
Yep, that would be great. I'll
I-
check with Stetson on that. Thank you.
I
Thank you
need
so
help
much
in
for coming.
filling
Any
out
more
that
questions?
form.
What
Yeah, I
form?
need all those forms like MGCC. It's an alphabet soup of them. And I get on there and they send some stuff back saying, well, you didn't fill it out right, so you too late. I'm
Yes.
tired of that. I know I represent a lot of people that feel just like that.
Yes. And you know what? One of the things that, during all of the public hearings, one of the questions that I always asked was like, how are people getting information, right? And we're navigating we're navigating the portal for
Yeah.
small businesses. And it's like, yo, sometimes you spend like 3,000 hours just to get on it, and you probably lucky if you get
It's
a
a
bell
mess.
to the city, right? It's not like the time and investment that you make is your return on investment doesn't match up, right? And so what we're trying to do is really think about, one of the things that I always ask is, what feedback have we provided people based on if they didn't get that
You can't
contract,
call them. You got to email them.
right? We
And
gotta
they never
give them
email you
feedback.
back. But I
But
got
it's
a
a-
personal problem. It's personal because I know the person. They are, I don't know if you heard of this term called sovereign citizen. Okay, it's quite a belief system, and they may need help. The person had a toothache, but they didn't want to sign a document saying that they were either a US citizen or whatever. Now, the person has some issues. And I am thinking that instead of just trying to, say, oh, you got issues, is there a way that people like this can get access to healthcare without having to go through so much documentation because they're almost homeless?
Yeah.
And it's a serious mental health. I mean, I don't think well, I shouldn't say that, but I think that it has something to do with maybe they need a counselor that can talk to them, not necessarily mental health, but during these times, everyone needs someone to talk to. And I want to get this person help, but they do not want to sign a piece of paper. I think it's kind of like odd, but okay, still go get your tooth looked at. Still, believe it or not, there's a lot of people on these streets that are alienated, and we just walk by them and we don't really notice. But this person needs the help, and they shouldn't be shunned because they have a belief system that may not be my own, that is not my own. But I noticed that they didn't want to go to the hospital because they didn't want to sign a form saying this, and I was like, my God, go to the hospital, please.
So I'll say one thing, and then I'm going to ask. I know that Councilor Sabi George has done a lot of work around the mental health and wellness space, especially around a lot of the unhoused population too. And she's actually filed and passed an ordinance to do a lot of this work. So I'd love to give her an opportunity to talk about this too. I just don't want to hog up the floor.
Oh, okay.
But I will just say really quick is like, when I think about just filing forms, I always go back to my own lived experience. My mom, I'm still the translator for my mom, right? I had to fill out like a 30-page document just to get her some mass health, right? And there's some things that I feel a little bit kind of that's invasive. I feel like there's some things that I feel like, well, how poor do you have to be just to get care, right? Like, and some of that is on the state level, and some of that is on the federal level, right? But what are some of the things that we could do on the municipal level? And I think about some of our community health centers. I think about how can we partner with some of our nonprofit organizations that are in the surrounding area to be able to provide some additional support services to some of the folks that we're trying to connect with. But I'd love to be able to give Councilor Sabi George, which I know this is really a passion of yours in this particular area, an opportunity to talk a little bit about, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Julia. And so if this person is unsheltered, currently experiencing homelessness, they can go through one of the mobile vans that delivers some healthcare on in a few of our communities. I can get you those locations. Just
Okay.
communicate with me offline. But then also, I think Julia Mejia, Councilor Mejia said it very specifically, our community health centers are a real resource. And when you are going in for healthcare, especially through an urgent care department, the amount of information they're requesting should be very minimal because
It's
it's
not,
through
though.
urgent care.
The guy didn't want to go into the building because he didn't want to take a temperature check because he thinks there's
Yeah,
something
I
wrong.
mean, well, so then there's a problem. Because we do need, if you're going into a healthcare
You
setting,
need that test,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. So I think too, if this person isn't well, or perhaps, dealing with maybe some instability, that 911 may actually be your best, case. You can also call if they have access to a social worker, if they've got any sort of caseworker through either
No.
state care or healthcare, to have that communicated with them. But if they're not, I mean,
You have a list of the mobile places that he can go, because I could just.
yeah, but
give
they're
that.
still gonna, when they interact with them, they're still gonna take his temperature. They're gonna still want to do a general health screening because of risk of exposure and risk of infection.
Well, I'll pass that information along to
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
It's a tough situation.
I'll
So,
put my contact information in the trash,
I
good,
appreciate
in the chat.
so, so
the chat.
BMC has, BMC has a,
Welcome, Kenny.
hey, Kenny.
Kenny
Where's
Brissett
Kenny?
just
So-
joined
I don't
us.
see- I don't see him. Hold on. Okay.
So Bill,
Okay.
BMC has an
Yes.
immigrant program, specifically for, undocumented residents who are in need of healthcare. And if
Oh,
they
there you
are
are.
part of any of the African immigrant subgroups, I
Mhm.
actually have connections with a sister who works specifically with immigrant communities in the African diaspora. So
He's
if-
an American, but he just thinks it's some other stuff. I don't want to get off of that. But listen, if I could just get the person in any way we can to
Uh-huh.
see their truth and to make sure that they're all right, because under COVID, people are just going out of it. So I need to talk to you about it. It is urgent. I'm trying to go and find them again to get them back into line because it really something. I went to 3 places. I took them to 3 places, and each one. When we went to BMC, he said I'll look at it online, but I don't want to sign a document saying I'm a U.S. citizen. I don't know why, but that's okay.
Well,
It
that sovereign citizen piece is the key. But I don't think that there is actually anything that to get healthcare that you have to document that what your citizenship status
No,
is.
it says it right there. It says it in BMC. It is right there, and that's what scared him.
We
It
can
said,
just skip the box. They're not going to deny him care because he skips one particular box.
That's what I was trying to tell him, but he didn't.
Yeah, the body temperature thing is a different problem.
Yeah, my
I don't know what to
goodness.
tell you. I don't know what the resolution to that is.
Yeah, so any social worker can actually end up enrolling, if he refuses to hit that citizen box, they can put him at a minimum in Mass Health Limited. So they can work around it, but you have to at least
good.
get past the temperature check.
Okay, good.
Do you have any more questions, Kenny, Andrew,
I have a question, please.
Aaron?
I kind of like a comment for Councilor Anisha George. I guess my question was, I just want to claim that I am a BPS graduate, 1982, for the record, just so all you guys know, BPL, Boston Public Schools in the house here.
All right.
I just want you to know. So my question to Anish was, you say your boys were in that, was it a football game?
Yeah.
Are they playing Boston English?
Today, 2 of them played. Yeah, they played English today.
Oh my God, that's my school. I gotta go with my school. That's my school.
I think your school actually did a little bit better today, but the head coach at English is a good friend of mine. So
Yeah, we have a mutual friend, Tony Big Time Robinson.
big time. Yep.
He actually played on my team in 1980. I mean, he might not admit it, but you kind of can remind him a little bit.
I will.
Let him know that. Always remember, Aaron Jones was the MVP of the city championship in Boston.
Hooray.
Just let him know, Boston English 1980.
I gotta text him now.
I always gotta throw that out there. Just for the camaraderie piece. you know, and and thank you again for coming, Counselor. You know, I've always enjoyed supporting you as our counselor, citywide counselor. I'm saddened to see you leave, of course, because now we have 2 seats open for city councilor at large, and Councilor Mejia is now my #1 counselor. I just want everyone to know and be clear that Councilor Mejia is my #1 counselor at this time with Councilor Fleury, and I'm looking to fill 2 more seats there for our ticket. Obviously, we don't all agree.
Well, Aaron, my goal is to not leave you. I'll just be joining you in a different way going forward.
Okay, yeah, and I'm very open to. I haven't committed to anybody in the mayor's race at this time.
All right.
So,
All right.
so I'm looking forward to, you know.
I'm Boston Tech 91. I didn't play football. I was a cheerleader, but
I played basketball.
Boston Tech 91.
I'm gonna interrupt this game.
No, Mejia, I love your earrings. Oh my God, those earrings, where'd you get them?
I got them from Grove Hall.
Oh, in the hood. That's the one that remind me of back in 1970, you know, in the 70s when I was living in Bromley Heath. You know, we were our brother's keeper back then.
Yeah, so I just need you all to know I'm from Dorchester High School.
Oh, Dorchester.
I'm just letting you know, BPS all day, every day.
Yes. So
barely made it out, but if MCAS was around, I'd still be in high school.
Yeah.
Closure. But I got out before that whole situation came out. But yeah, and I didn't play any sports because I was cleaning.
It's okay. It's okay.
And I wasn't a cheerleader. I was cleaning and cooking.
That's okay. And you worked at Tom McCann's too.
Yes, I did. I worked at Tom McCann's in Fields Corner Plaza.
Yeah. I know your history. Come on now. I know who I support.
Yes, yeah.
You know, so I just want to thank you guys for coming out today. You know, it was a pleasure having you because we hadn't met in a very long time as a group, and we're still building, of course, with this technology. And our good friend Amani has mentioned that, you know, we're going to consider meeting as a group, you know, at least quarterly, so we can actually see faces and you know, get that human element going. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to that because there's some people on this committee that I've never even met in person. So it's you know.
Aaron Jones says he was MVP. Never. Yeah, we'll be meeting quarterly, and we'll have you back. We'll be planning forums for at large and for mayor, and we'll be in touch with y'all about how that's going to look. And so please keep your staffs in touch with us. We haven't heard from Ken or Andrew. If you guys want to make any comments before we sign off and adjourn the meeting, it's really great to see you. And thank you so much to Councilor Asabi George for being there for us over the years and stepping into the big challenge, and for Julie Mejia for coming around. It was so fun to spend time with y'all.
I just have one comment, and that was with the person trying to get housing. Yeah. And I do my laundry at Sarnia on Tremont Street, and there was a young kid there. He was 32, and I've seen him for a while. And I just literally got him housing on St. Paul Street.
Wow.
And we went through the South End. We went through the South End Health, the South End Health Clinic on Washington Street. They were amazing. So I just wanted to, you know.
That's a great resource, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were really good. And he's got housing as of yesterday.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's great.
We need happy stories like that.
Yeah, because I agree. I mean, even though we were able to meet quarterly on Zoom, there's nothing like meeting in person.
Yeah, there's hopefully it'll get back to normal when the vaccination gets circulated more broadly and we know how effective it is. But I just checked the COVID spikes. We're at where we were last year at the same time. So there are new strains coming around, and I'm one of those folks that, with the elderly people on our committee, we want to err on the side of caution and make sure that everyone stays healthy and happy. And it's good to see everybody. So we're going to adjourn the meeting, and we will be in touch closely with Mason following this bill, and we'll be working together to get a letter together and get our state representative and our senator here to meet with us, and hopefully have some more of you back.
Mason
So-
and Ms.
I'm gonna put my name, I'm gonna put my info in the trash too.
Circular file, circular file.
Just don't hang up until I put it so y'all can take it, okay?
We got you all on speed dial. We know how to get a hold of you,
Well,
everyone.
not everybody, I don't know, I haven't heard from everybody on this situation, so now you got my info.
It was very nice seeing everybody. Have a great
All right, yep,
weekend.
there we go. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Georgia.
Wait, motion, motion,
Oh,
motion.
what-
Now, wait,
Oh, yeah.
Jeff, are you back? Are you
Do I
back?
hear a motion to adjourn?
Jeff, are
I
you?
motion to
back?
adjourn.
All right, thank
I
you, Kenny.
second.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are you back
All
yet? Jeff?
opposed?
Are you back, Jeff? Are you
Yes.
back yet?
I am. I'll chat with you offline. I'll send you an email and
Yeah,
give you a
you
call.
didn't even know you were back, man.
Yeah, I've got, my kids are struggling. We have some serious family health issues and,
Oh, okay,
so,
all right.
yeah.
Good luck.
but
Take care.
we're present, we're paying attention and following everybody's work and, following all of your email chains, but shoot me your number and I'll give you a call. All right. Take care, everybody. Peace. Have a great weekend.